This anime told about an otaku guy called Sato Kazuma. One day he bought a new game. While on his way home, he saw a woman who almost hit by a truck. Seeing that, Kazuma immediately tried to save her. Unfortunately, it caused him to die. Then Kazuma woke up and sat opposite a beautiful goddess named Aqua. Hearing Kazuma's story, Aqua laughed at the story of him dying ridiculously. It turned out that Kazuma died of shock, thinking the tractor about to hit the woman was a truck. He was afraid that the tractor would run him over. Not only that, but Kazuma also wet his pants. Even the doctors and nurses couldn't help but laugh at Kazuma, who died ridiculously. Then Aqua offered Kazuma to live in another world or Sekai. Also, Aqua gave Kazuma a choice to bring some powerful new weapons or abilities to make it easier for Kazuma to live in that world. But while choosing that, Kazuma was slightly annoyed with Aqua's attitude. As a result, Kazuma instead chose Aqua to be brought to Sekai. So another goddess appeared to replace Aqua's task. Meanwhile, Aqua went with Kazuma to Sekai. Seeing Aqua, who was sad, Kazuma got excited. However, after arriving at Sekai, they both became homeless because they had no money or special abilities to rely on. Not only that, Aqua was a useless goddess. Aqua even received financial donations from the goddess Eris sect, a goddess whose level was lower than Aqua. Then because they already had money, they registered to become adventurers at a temple with a staff named Luna. During the status check, it could be seen that Kazuma's status was very weak, except for his level of intelligence and luck, which was very high. So Kazuma was only a below-average adventurer. At the same time, Aqua had a powerful status. However, her intelligence and luck were below average. We could see Kazuma, a construction worker, and Aqua, who painted the walls. Kazuma continued to swing his hoe non-stop. Furthermore, they lived in the stables because they could not rent an inn. Then Aqua invited Kazuma to carry out a mission from the Adventurer Temple, defeat 5 giant frogs within 3 days. But they had trouble fighting the frogs. The frogs even managed to swallow Aqua. Luckily, Kazuma could beat the frog. However, Aqua felt that the frog had tainted her. As a result, Aqua wanted to launch a counterattack. But unfortunately, the attack did not work. So Kazuma immediately helped her. In the end, Kazuma managed to beat 2 frogs in 1 day. After that, they intended to add their team members so that they could carry out the mission easily. The next day, a woman came which was a high-ranking witch named Megumin. She wanted to join Kazuma's group. As a result, the 3 of them tried to beat the frogs. Megumin, without further ado, immediately casted her explosion magic. After that, however, Megumin felt exhausted and drained of her magic power. As a result, Aqua and Kazuma were eaten by the frogs. In the end, it was Kazuma who defeated the 2 frogs. They finally managed to complete the mission to beat 5 frogs. Megumin explained that she couldn't use her other magic and could only cast explosion magic once a day. So Kazuma thought she was useless and wanted to throw her away. However, Megumin still forced Kazuma to accept her. The women who saw them covered in slime thought that Kazuma had abused them both. Megumin was also seen taking advantage of the situation so that she would be accepted as a member of Kazuma's group. Then Kazuma returned to the temple and got quite a lot of prize money for the success of his mission. Then there was a female knight named Darkness who met Kazuma. She was also interested in joining Kazuma's group. After seeing Darkness' attitude, Kazuma knew that Darkness was a top-level masochist. Then, the next day, Kazuma wanted to learn a new ability. Then came a woman willing to teach Kazuma the skills of robbers. Kazuma also accepted it. She taught Kazuma the ability to steal valuable objects belonging to opponents or steal. Kazuma learned this ability with the ability points he had accumulated without further ado and immediately used Seal on her. Kazuma cheered for joy because he had gotten something valuable, her underwear. Not only that, but Kazuma also showed his steal skill to Aqua and Megumin and managed to get their underwear too. After that, there was an uproar in the city. The adventurers were asked to head to the city gates. It turned out that a cabbage hurricane had flown into the city. So they tried to fight the live cabbages. where one cabbage was worth 10,000 eris. Darkness could be seen excited and happy about being hit by the cabbages. Not only that, but Megumin also tried to cast her explosion magic. She managed to beat a lot of cabbage. On the other hand, Kazuma decided to hunt for the remaining cabbages. After that, Aqua and Megumin accepted Darkness as their group member. Darkness officially became a member of the Kazuma group. Thanks to the previous cabbage hunt, Kazuma became suddenly rich because he managed to get a lot of rare cabbage. Kazuma then bought some equipment to become a real adventurer, but when he looked at the mission board in the room, all that was high-level mission information. Luna said it was because one of the Demon King's generals was near the city, so the other monsters stayed away from the city. Because they didn't have a mission, Kazuma and Megumin practiced explosion magic around the city. They accidentally cast their magic on a castle at the top of a hill, and they didn't know that the leader of the Demon King was inside the castle. They casted their magic to the castle every day. Then their city was visited by the leader of the Demon King named Verdia. He looked outraged because two insane people destroyed his castle every day. Megumin and Aqua looked like they wanted to attack Verdia, but Verdia immediately attacked Megumin with cursed magic. Darkness swiftly became a shield for Megumin. Even though she was cursed, Darkness seemed to enjoy herself because of Verdia's attack. Verdia then asked Megumin to come to his castle so she could release Darkness' curse. After that, Verdia immediately left. However, Aqua was able to remove Darkness' curse easily, so that Megumin and Kazuma wouldn't go to Verdia's castle. Their finances ran low, so they were forced to take on high-class missions. The mission required them to purify a lake so that crocodiles stayed away from the lake. Aqua decided to purify the lake alone. Kazuma then locked Aqua in a cage so the crocodiles could not attack Aqua while she was purifying the lake. Aqua looked scared when many crocodiles approached her cage as she was still trying desperately to purify the lake water. Meanwhile, Kazuma and the others just watched from the top of the hill near the lake. After 7 hours of trying, Aqua finally purified the lake. The water became clean and clear, and the crocodiles were no longer seen. But inside the cage, Aqua looked gloomy and silent after completing the mission. Meanwhile, on the other hand, there was another reincarnation named Mitsurugi Kyuya. He became a hero in the world of Sekai. This was caused by the super powerful weapon given to him by the goddess Aqua before, namely Cursed Sword Gram. Kyuya could also defeat a giant dragon with just one slash. However, after he met Aqua there and Kazuma brought her to that world, Kyuya became angry with him. But Kazuma didn't care about him. Kyuya didn't accept it, and challenged Kazuma to fight over Aqua. But Kazuma instead used his steel on Kyuya and managed to hit Kyuya's head with his own sword. The women who saw that mocked Kazuma as a coward. Kazuma tried to scare them while demonstrating his powerful steel moves. The next day, Kyuya wanted to take his cursed sword from Kazuma. However, it turned out that Kazuma had already sold his sword and got a bag full of money. After that, suddenly Verdia came. He was furious because Kazuma and his friends did not come to his castle. Verdia intended to attack them all. Then Aqua attacked him with undead magic. The attack managed to injure Verdia. However, Verdia summoned a large army of undead that appeared from the ground. Kazuma and his friends worked together as a team so that they could eradicate the undead army at the same time. As a result, they all turned to dust thanks to Megumin's explosion magic. But Verdia was still alive. They were all cornered, and he managed to dodge Kazuma's attack. But thanks to that, Kazuma realized that Verdia's weakness was water. Seeing that, the others helped Kazuma to launch a water attack. Not only that, but Aqua casted her powerful magic. She let out as much water as the flood waters. Verdia, who took that much damage, became weak. In the end, Aqua managed to purify his undead body. In the end, Verdia was defeated. Because Kazuma managed to defeat Verdia, Luna gave them 300 million Eris. On the other hand, Aqua's attack had destroyed the city's gates, requiring them to compensate 340 million Eris. They had no choice but to continue struggling to pay off the remaining 40 million Eris debt. Because so many debts were left, they had to carry out another mission. This time they chose to hunt the Snow Elves. As usual, Megumin immediately casted her explosion magic. But not long after that, a snow giant appeared. They were cornered because he was powerful. They thought they would be safe if they bowed their heads before him. However, Kazuma's head was suddenly slashed by the giant. Kazuma woke up and sat in front of a goddess named Eris. Goddess Eris intended to return Kazuma to Japan and be reborn as a baby. Even though Kazuma was happy, Aqua managed to heal Kazuma's severed head. Kazuma was immediately drawn back to Sekai. Megumin and others warmly welcomed Kazuma because Kazuma died in tragic circumstances. Next, Kazuma and his friends stopped by Wiz's shop, where people usually called her the ruler of the undead. Not only that, but Wiz was also one of the commanders of the Demon King army. Wiz explained if they wanted to defeat the Demon King, they would first have to defeat all of his army leaders. Because Kazuma had no intention of defeating the Demon King, Kazuma didn't care about that either. Kazuma just wanted to learn some new skills from Wiz. One of those abilities was Drain Touch, or the power to absorb other people's or opponents' magical energy. Kazuma learned this ability without further ado, which could be useful in the fight later. Then they were allowed to live in a magnificent villa with the condition that they must be able to expel the spirits in the mansion. Luckily, Aqua could easily drive away the spirits. Suddenly, many dolls appeared at night that surrounded them when they slept. The dolls chased after Kazuma and Megumin. Even though Kazuma and Megumin even had time to pee first, in the end, they were cornered and hid in a room. Luckily, Aqua managed to eradicate all of the dolls, so they managed to get rewarded for being able to complete the mission. Not only that, they could continue to live in the mansion. Then one day at the park, Kazuma got a challenge from other adventurers to go to the succubus shop. Finally, the three of them went there. The succubus would give them all sweet dreams, especially the men who placed orders at their shop. Not only that, but they were also free to choose the type of woman they wanted. That made Kazuma more excited. Later that night, Kazuma fell asleep in the bath. Because of that, Kazuma thought he was already in a dream when he woke up. Darkness suddenly appeared. Without a preamble, Kazuma asked Darkness to clean his back. However, there was a commotion outside. It turned out that Aqua instead caught a succubus that would give Kazuma sweet dreams. Because Aqua and Megumin wanted to exterminate her, Kazuma put up a body to protect her. Darkness who came thought that Kazuma was being controlled. The three of them planned to kill the succubus. Meanwhile, Kazuma prepared to fight them manly. Luckily, the succubus managed to escape while Kazuma was already battered from being beaten up. The next day, when meeting Darkness, Kazuma pretended to be controlled even though Kazuma was never controlled. Suddenly, a warning appeared about the destroyer coming to their city. Not long, the destroyer in the form of a giant spider appeared. The destroyer was an ancient weapon that could destroy anything in its path. Knowing this, Kazuma intended to fight them. If he didn't, his beloved mansion would be destroyed. All the adventurers, including Wiz, agreed to banish the destroyer. Shortly before the fight, Darkness revealed her true identity to Kazuma. Her real name was Dustiness Ford Lalatina, a noble daughter of the city's ruler. A destroyer appeared and started destroying the surroundings. Aqua tried to bring out her full power. Not only that, Wiz and Megumin also released their most vigorous attack together. Finally, they managed to overthrow the destroyer. Unexpectedly, the destroyer activated its self-detonation mode. Meanwhile, Darkness looked even more excited and immediately ran into the destroyer. After seeing Darkness' bravery, the other adventurers came to her aid on the pretext that Succubus Shop wouldn't be destroyed. They then managed to enter and met with the creator of the destroyer, which the kingdom forced him to create it. However, the destroyer went out of control and destroyed the kingdom. The creator of the destroyer could only happily accept his fate. They then headed to the destroyer's control room. Wiz intended to perform teleportation magic. After absorbing Kazuma's energy, Wiz could use her teleportation magic and randomly move the destroyer's core to another place. But apparently, all that was not over because it was seen that the destroyer's body was emitting red light and the temperature was boiling. The explosion could vanish an entire city into a sea of flames. Kazuma then sucked Aqua's magic energy into Megumin so that Megumin could cast another explosion magic. The destroyer was turned into dust with a mighty explosive force. The townspeople could return to live in peace. Not long after, Kazuma had guests from the capital who would arrest Kazuma. It was all because Kazuma and his friends had blown up a residence of a noble. It was caused by the destroyer core that had mistakenly landed in the noble's residence. Kazuma forcefully had to become a prisoner. Season 1 of this anime has finished. Thank you for watching from start to finish. Remember to like this video and subscribe for more videos.